Hello everyone, welcome to another session of the Film Voyage. Today we have with us Mr. Rajat Kapoor, and you obviously have seen him in a lot of films. You've seen him as two very contrasting kind of uncles in Monsoon Wedding and Dil Chahta Hai. Just the diametrically opposite of each other. That's how he approached uncles back then. And of course, we know him as an actor, and we also have seen his films that have completely blown our minds. Like Aankhon Dekhi, and Aankhon Dekhi was kind of was the film that all of us kind of woke up to him as this is something else. This was not expected from Rajat Kapoor. And but mostly, what personally I am a fan of is his films like Mithya, Raghu Romeo, his comedies that he's so brilliant at. I'd like to talk to you about your early days when you started out in the Film Institute. And I read somewhere a very interesting excerpt from an interview that you did that once you start out, you're watching these world cinema giants, and you're like, "Agla godar tum main hu ab." And when you make your continuity film, you can't join two shots. What was that about? Just please talk about a little bit about that time of yours.
I know it's so true. So yeah, FTI was a great place. Is a great place. It was great for me to be there. Two things happened. When I went to FTI, I was 24, and I was already a huge film buff. I was a member of a film society in Delhi. I was like a film hound. I would watch everything, go to film festivals, and all of that. So when I applied for FTI and I got in, I thought everybody who came to FTI would be like that. And then when I entered, I realized that's not true. A lot of people didn't have that background in cinema that I did, or even they came. I don't know. A lot of them came just like that. To discover. Let's see what is this like. So that was a bit of a disappointment for me. But then what happens? No matter what your background, no matter where you come from to FTI, within 3 months, everybody has reached that level of, okay, I am the next Bergman. So everybody is now suddenly exposed to Tarkovsky and Godard and Bergman and Kurosawa. And you're saying, yeah, okay, this is cinema, this is cool, I'm cool, and I'm going to be the next big guy. So in your head, the fantasy has started. And then you in your class, you're discussing these great filmmakers and their works, and you're dissing them. What is this shit? That was Bergman paintings. So you become suddenly superior to all that has happened before you, because you can. It's a bit like social media now. So and then at the end of 1 year, you're supposed to make your continuity film, which is a 5-minute film. And so you have to write it and direct it and then edit it and so on. And that's when you realize, man, you don't know shit. You don't know the first thing about cinema. So then everybody shuts up. After they make their first continuity film, they see how bad it is. Then they stop talking for a bit. Then they say, okay, shit, I don't know anything. I better learn something. And then that continues, that state of almost, you go into depression for about a year, saying that, man, I'm never going to be able to make films. Forget masters, I don't even know the basics. And then by the time the third year is ending and you're close to your diploma film, then again, certain arrogance comes back. I'll make the best bloody diploma film ever, and I'll be discovered. And more than that, more than diploma, I'm going to. There was a guy in my batch, I don't want to name him. He used to say, yeah, my address is so and so name, New Indian Cinema, Bombay. It'll reach me. So it was half joke, but only half a joke, because the belief was that we are going to change cinema that is being made. We are going to bring about a revolution in the arts, and then everybody has that. It's not one or two, maybe one or two have more than the others, but almost everybody shares that belief, that delusion almost. Uh, and then seniors who had been out in Bombay and working would sometimes come back and tell you how difficult it really is, that it takes years to do something worthwhile. So you were aware of that also. You also knew that it's not going to be easy at all.
So when you
But the
like, yeah. So sir,
no,
you're
say,
going
say,
to
say.
you say.
Go on.
Yeah. So when you made your first, like, when you made your continuity film, what was that about? Like, what kind of films did you make while you were there in FTI?
Uh, all different, because they're at different stages. So first one after 10 months, then after 15 months, then after 18 months, and you're growing a lot. You're changing every 3 months. So, and you're also wanting to try out new things every 3 months. So you don't want to do what you've done before. And there are different exercises. Continuity exercise is supposed to be about continuity, about more about editing, how shots come together. Then there was a dialogue exercise, which is emphasis was on dialogue. Then there was a mise en scène exercise, which was largely a one take exercise. How do you design a long take? And then at the end of it, you have your diploma. And there was a song picturization, which was also great fun. I did a three manzil song. You could take any existing song and yeah, I did Aja 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 Main Hu Pyar Tera. It was great fun. Yeah.
So in all these different exercises, like I'm from Whistling Woods, and Sharad Raj is from FTII.
Right,
and,
right. I know Sharad.
And yeah, and he also took us like took an exercise with us, which was about song picturization, and he made us shoot uh, Suno Na Maro Isse, that song, R.D. Burman song. And he used to talk about how you guys used to do that on campus. So in FTII, when all these exercises were done, and you have repeatedly in all your interviews talked about how you were trying to find your voice. Now, when you started out in these exercises, was there any thought, okay, what is it that I am interested in, or was it just
Sure,
okay,
sure, sure,
I'm
sure.
I'm seeing these
Sure.
films and I have to do something like that?
So the very good question, Aryan. But the two things are simultaneous. You can't even separate one from the other. Also, I had a background in theatre. I already worked in Delhi for about 5 or 6 years in theatre. I had directed my first play. I had been part of a few plays as an actor. We had made a group called Chingari. All this happened in 82, 83. And I went to FTI in 84, 85. So yeah, I already had an idea of what kind of work excites me, at least in terms of theatre and in terms of watching films. I knew what excites me. But again, that changes every year, especially in your initial years. That changes every year. One year you're great fan of Ghatak. Next year you say, oh my God, but Bresson. And next year you say something else. And and you try and imbibe, obviously. See, now there are two things. A, you're learning. B, there's a pressure of wanting to be like that, And C, you want to know who you are. But these are all simultaneous pressures, and it's terrible. Also, Kumar used to come to teach us, Kumar Shahani, and Manikal used to come and teach us sometimes. And that was great pressure, because I would look at these two gentlemen and I'll say, oh my God, this is what you need to be a filmmaker. I'm never going to make it. These guys are intellectuals. They know everything. They know everything. Kumar would talk about a philosopher, then he'll talk about Indian philosophy, then he'll talk about Indian classical music, then he'll talk about Beethoven, then he'll talk about painting. I was like, my God, how does he know all this? Yeah, he's and he's a filmmaker. So all this is like just background knowledge, and then it was very depressing almost, because you thought, मेरे से नहीं होगा बस,
मुझे कुछ आता ही नहीं है.
आता ही मुझे कुछ आता ही नहीं है. करेक्ट, ना तो सिनेमा के बारे में आता है, ना ये सब आता है, मैं तो कुछ नहीं कर पाऊंगा यार. And I thought this was almost mandatory to be able to make a film. So this is the bad side, I think, of a film school. This kind of pressure.
Yeah, a friend of mine, yeah, so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'll keep interrupting.
Say, please interrupt.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, he used to say that whenever he had to write something, or he had to like think of directing something, he was like, यार मुझे बनान तो है यार, लेकिन मुझे कुरोसावा की कब्र नहीं खोदनी है। मुझे ऐसा कि यार इतने महान लोग करके चले गए, मैं क्या बनाऊंगा अब?
वही प्रॉब्लम,
एंड
सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम वही है आर्यन, एंड the biggest problem is that everything has been done right in writing, in cinema, in art, everything has been done. तब आप उसमें नया क्या करेंगे? So there is only one thing that you can bring to this world, which is you. What you can bring is you, because you were never there before this. You know, you never existed before this. So the world as we see through your eyes has never existed before you. You know, and that is, and even if you understand this uh, mentally and intellectually, to arrive at that is very difficult. To say, okay, I understand that I need to find myself, but who is me? What is me? You know, that you can't just put words, okay, this is me. No. So what happens then? The whole journey of making a film, of writing a novel, or whatever you do, of an artist, becomes that journey of self-discovery. So I say very often that I am making films to find me. There is no other purpose. It is not that I know who I am and so I'm making a film like that. No. I make a film and I discover something about me. You know. So for me the process now of making a film is to find out what bothers me, what excites me, what how do I look at the world, you know. And that journey is exciting for any artist. And if you are on that journey, then believe me, there will be others who will share that journey, who will share that vision, and who will say, "Yeah, okay, I know what he's talking about. I have a similar experience of the world," you know. And then that where the world work starts getting reaching out to somebody else.
so
Does
as you
that make sense?
said, every film of yours is you're trying to discover yourself.
Right.
And after you after you graduated from FTI and you assisted Kumar Shahani sir in
Manikal.
Khayal Gatha, and then Manikal sir also. And so these are people who come from a certain school of thought which was like,
Right.
much more minimalistic. And then here you are, you're making a film like, say, later on we saw you making a Raghu Romeo. Of course, Private Detective had shades of that Kumar Shahani touch there. I
Right.
mean, one
And
could see.
before Private Detective, Tarana, I made a short film called Tarana in '93 for
Yeah,
Films
that won the
Division.
national award. Yeah.
That won the national award. So that film was completely me trying to be Kumar Shan. You know, Kumar had made Khayal Gatha and I made Tarana. It is a very nice film. It's a very beautiful film. It's well made. I like the film, but it it was really under the influence of Kumar. You know, and even Private Detective, which was very different from anything Kumar had done. It was a film noir about murder and relationships and all that. The subject was very me, I would say. But I remember in my head while shooting the film, they would at the back of my head would be a thing of how would Kumar do it, you know, or what would Kumar do in a situation like this. So there was the pressure of living up to the great master.
But don't we all do that while making a film? Like, of course, we thought कि यार ये घटक कैसे shot लेते हैं इसका या.
Correct. We all do, and that is the struggle to find yourself. That is exactly the struggle, and you do it sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, a lot more unconsciously than consciously. And then I made a short film called Hypnothesis. Again for FTI, I made a diploma film for
Yeah,
actors.
it's not there on YouTube. I tried searching for it. I kind of scoured
Yeah.
yeah, it's not there on YouTube. Where can we see that film?
I
Because
think
it's a
I
very
have.
important film in your filmography. You said that you
Yeah,
found yourself after that film.
I have a print of it. I have a copy of it somewhere. Yeah, so with that film, I think I have found my voice for the first time.
Which
This
was
was
what? Which was what? Like, what
it
did
was
you
a
discover?
film about kidnapping. So that was the basic idea that these five people kidnap the father of. They kidnap one of the boys and ask for ransom from the father, and then they kill the father, which is quite mad. And also, the process was quite mad because I was given these five actors to work with. that you have to make a diploma film for these actors. So the whole process started with these five. Okay, what are we going to do? When the script came out, working with them. So there was nothing I've written, and then so the whole process was just. And in the end, they end up as clowns. The whole last 7 minutes of the film is them as clowns, like a circus. So also my thing with clowns started with that film. And then in '99, soon after this, I did my first play with clowns called C for Clown, which ran for 10 years till 2009 actually. So I discovered clowns with that. I discovered this mad kind of humor, the over the top, impossible situation, which excited me very much. And I really felt I've come to terms with who I am. It took me 10 years after leaving FTI. But the only way you can do this is by working. If you don't work, you don't move. So I was lucky enough to have made 2 short films and 1 feature film in 10 years, which took me to this path of realization.
Wow. So that's when you discover that, okay, this is the kind of space that I operate in. I enjoy the dark humor. And so when you wrote Mithya, which was, I think, before Raghu Romeo,
Right.
and the film has, I don't know, I mean, why was it difficult to get that film financed from producer? Because it's a comedy in India. I mean, that's the presumptions that we have, that
But I
people.
wrote it in '98. I wrote Raghu Romeo and Mithya 98, 99. At that time, Aryan, there were no multiplexes. They were so where would you release a film like this? At Eros, Regal, no. And nobody was interested. And of course, I didn't want to work with stars. There were no stars in these films, so it was impossible. At that time, this multiplex films idea had not started. Multiplexes came in about 2000, 2001. Uh, Before that, there was no chance. '90s were terrible for any kind of independent cinema, not just me. Speak to Raghavan. Raghavan talks about '90s as the decade that slipped out of my pocket. Uh, and for a lot of us, it was like that because, see, till '70s, '80s, NFDC used to fund a lot of first-time filmmakers, and they stopped sometime after mid '80s, and then so all the new wave filmmakers of the '70s came because of NFDC.
True.
Whether it's Kumar or Mani or Ketan Mehta or Vinod Chopra, Saeed Mirza, they all made their first films with the NFDC. Kundan Shah, everybody. And when they stopped, so where would an independent filmmaker go? So nobody was interested in a film like Mithya or Raghu Romeo. And maybe it was good that Mithya didn't get made in '99. So I kept doing new drafts, kept writing it again and again. So maybe I also got better as a filmmaker by the time it got made in 2006. So maybe it was all good eventually.
So you eventually decided to make Raghu Romeo yourself because no one was going to make it. And one thing, like the first time I saw Raghu Romeo, I wanted to, erase it from my mind and watch it again so that I get the feeling of watching it for the first time. It's so amazing. It was
Thank you
so
so much.
beautiful. It was so like it was pure. I mean, you could understand that guy, you could relate to that guy.
Right.
And it's not like it's an. I mean, I don't know why people have this association of indie films and being very artsy. It's a very mainstream idea. It's a zero
Right.
to hero story, even if it is own head. So
Right.
why do you think that happens? Like a film like that also goes through a same trouble that a very abstract film would go in a country like this.
I don't know. I think the whole concept works only with stars. Yeah. Our Bollywood understanding of production and distribution is who's in it. You make Raghu Romeo with I don't know, with Shah Rukh Khan, and it's another film.
And you didn't want to do that. You didn't want to cast stars.
For Mithya, I did.
Yeah.
Mithya, I did ask. Shah Rukh read the script of Mithya. For Mithya, I would have, because that would work. Mithya would work with a Saif Ali Khan, for example, Shah Rukh. But not Aankhon Dekhi, not Raghu Romeo, not these films.
So Raghu Romeo, when you made like, of course, Sham Benegal had made Manthan with, all the farmers donating ₹1, and you sent out emails to your friends that, okay, just help me out with this film, and become partners in this film,
Right.
and that's how you got that film made. W- While writing, did you have what were the things that you kept in, except for keeping the second half confined to one location? What were the things that you kept in mind while writing the scenes? That, okay, I'm not gonna have money to do this, but let me find a way of working around it. How do you do that?
I didn't think like that when I was writing it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have written Mithya also. Gangster film. I would never imagine that I will be able to make a gangster film, you know. No, no, I don't think while writing it, I said, "It's good budget case company." No. I just
So
wrote
you
something.
never, thought it like that. Like, even keeping the second half on one location, I thought that was because it
Budget
also gives
constraints.
you. I mean, that's what indie. I'm like, that's what I thought, because I was like, we paise to, like, there was no money to do that, and one location, and it goes like that. I thought, okay, budget must have been a, and because you, of course, the production design of that one location, that was, I hadn't seen anything like that before.
Right. No, because with the very small budget, I think we managed to really go out on the streets and shoot it. Near Grand Road Station, into a cinema hall. We had looked at the beer bar. A lot of it is set up in the beer bar. So even with no budget, we managed to. And that chawl where Raghu stays, we shot there for 4 days in Burley. I mean, people were very nice and they let us shoot there for very little money. Uh, but yeah, now I'm looking back and saying it was quite adventurous for a no budget film to
Yeah,
actually
and it
go out.
looks big. It doesn't look
Yeah,
like a no budget film. It looks
right,
big.
correct. The budget was 80 lakhs for that film. So 40 lakhs came from NFDC, and my share was supposed to be 40 lakhs. Of that 40, I had 15 lakhs of my own, and 25 was raised through crowdfunding.
Uh,
But
Also,
then,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Please
But
go
then
ahead.
I promised them while raising money, because I never thought 80 lakh rupee film can make a loss. I thought we'll recover money. So I wrote to everybody saying that I'll return your money, and if there's a profit, you'll share in profit. But if there's a loss, don't worry, loss is mine. I'll return your money. And the film lost money. So I was like, for the next 5 years, I was just doing some acting jobs and returning that money. That was terrible. When
Oh,
Raghu Romeo eventually released and bombed, my God, it was really a depression for 2 months. I was like, fuck. It is bombed, which means my last film was Private Detective 8 years back, and this was my first release of Romeo. So I thought, oh my God, for the next 8 years again, I won't make a film because this one is bombed. And secondly, I have to return 25 lakhs. Man, I'm screwed. Where is that money coming from?
so that's why you
So
took up acting jobs, more acting jobs.
no, I took up acting jobs when they came my way. It's not that I acted more to return the money, no. But people who had given me that loan were nice people, also friends, some of them. So they waited. Like Nasir Sahib had given 5 lakhs, so I returned his
Oh,
money after 3 years. So he
of
was
course,
happy to receive it after 3 years.
and he ended up doing Mithya again. And I read somewhere that Mithya was originally meant for him.
I had written it when I wrote it in 98, 99. I had given it to him. I sent it to him, and he had liked it very much. Um, but I just couldn't raise money with Nasir.
And then he was too old for that part, I think.
It took 10 years later, and
Yeah.
Ranveer suited the part. But
So, talking about the craft of, like, something that I see in all your films is that you shoot chaos in a very constrained manner. It's
right,
almost like it's there, uh, just like the way you've placed your camera right now, and it's within the frame that chaos is being
correct.
staged.
This
And
chaos is one of the few things that I've been trying for the last 25 years. And I've been trying this in my place, and I thrive on that. I thrive on that, making that chaos work. And I've been more successful of doing this in my theater work, whether it's Sifa Clown or Hamlet, or really to have 7, 8 actors on stage and a lot of action happening simultaneously, so that you want to watch this, but you want to watch that also, and you want to watch this also. audience has always this possibility of multiple actions at multiple layers, and it's a difficult skill to pull it off, uh, but I really enjoy it. On cinema, it's more difficult to create because you're working with a camera, so on. But I'm getting better at this slowly.
Yeah, how do you go about it? What's your process behind, like, okay, this is a scene where everyone, and especially that one mind-blowing scene in Raghu Romeo inside the film studio, where in the hospital, where they're like, there's jump cuts and there's the characters in the back and it's a front, then again in the back, and of course that's through the cutting. But how did you stage that? जैसे यहाँ पर एक slate वाला भी रहेगा, यहाँ पर एक ऐसा भी रहेगा.
It was
What do you go about?
very funny that scene. You know, we didn't write that scene. We couldn't write that scene. Sorry. We wrote the whole damn script, but we tried to crack that. How does he kidnap her? We know that he comes to the studio. We know that they come as dressed up as junior artists, and Raghu will kidnap her. This we knew. And we kept trying to write that scene, and we could not crack it, Aryan. It was a nightmare. And sometimes great things happen out of inability, you know. So at the day of the shoot, we were still saying, "What the hell, man?" And then this brilliant idea came that don't move the camera, keep the camera here, let's keep jumping. And then it was fantastic. Then we just made, okay, next, abhi kya hoga? Iske baad kya hoga? Iske baad kya hoga? So lighting kept changing of the same corridor. Thing kept progressing. And how Raghu comes closer and closer and closer, and boom. And it worked beautifully. But I don't want to take that chance again.
Of not having to write the scene beforehand.
Yeah, it was a nightmare that we couldn't crack it. But you know, you trust your instinct and hope things will work out. In this case, it did work out, but it doesn't always.
Also, the humor in your films, like of course, a film which is so driven by a certain kind of a treatment. Raghu Romeo was. It's television, it's and everything. I mean, it's everything a film school guy like me could ask. Isme treatment we have, there's scope for performances, everything is there. So how, and the humor, it seems very improvisational, although it's written, and it almost feels like, okay, this is being created as we go along. So is it something you deliberately do, or was it actually, because when everything kind of erupts in that one room, when there's a brother, when there's all four of them, how did that scene come about?
That scene was very well written. That is part of it. But you know, Rafe, my DOP, and I decided on the very first film, Private Detective, that we will never do a short film. And this is my thing. I don't want to know how we shoot. And we've made 8 films together now. Last one being RKRP. And we have never done a short film. So I think part of why it comes out with this kind of immediacy, with this kind of feeling that it's being improvised right now, is because in a way it is being improvised right now. So it has that organic truth to it, I hate this idea of saying, okay, camera yahan hai, aap aaiye, baith jaiye, chai pijiye, chale jaiye. No. I think that's a horrible idea of making a film. For me, I mean, of course, if somebody like Hitchcock, it works, or Wes Anderson. This is how he does it. But not for me. I have to arrive at it at that moment. So of course you've written a scene, and then on the day of the shoot you ask your actors, "Kya karna hai, kaise karna bolo?" And then we start improvising, and then I start giving my inputs. Maybe we can do it like this. Maybe you can come from the kitchen at this point. Maybe you can come from the other way. And after you kind of fix that, then we start picking up the camera and say, okay, now how do we shoot this? Now let's make shots.
So how much time does that take before you actually start rolling on the day of the shoot?
An hour, 2 hours, depends. Depends on how complex the scene is.
So when you in that scene, like there's this thing that I noticed, that how Martin Scorsese shoots Robert De Niro and his outbreaks like that, hysteria in your films, and especially Ranveer Shori losing his shit in your films is just a beautiful sight. I mean, I love that part in Mithya where he says, "साले तुम लोग को artist की कदर नहीं है, तू क्या मारेगा, वही मार लूंगा खुद को." And later, of course, Kadak also is like, "अरे उसको मटन लेके आया था यार वो." So that hysteria, and of course, when you go and it's like, "मेरे publisher को मार दिया तूने," and how do you do that? How do you stage hysteria, something like that?
I don't know. How do you stage any scene? It's just like any other emotion, any other scene.
But of course, a conversation would be much easier to block and stage. But something like that, okay, yeah, there's an outbreak, and and maintaining that over.
Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy, or nothing is difficult. I mean, depends which way you want to look at it. A conversation can be a very difficult thing to shoot. If it is shot in the regular way, it's terrible. कि आप वहाँ बैठे हैं, ये यहाँ बैठा है, टू शॉट है, उसका लगाया. I've never shoot like that. So a conversation is even more difficult. How do you?
So what I meant was in terms of the performances that you do, right? Not in terms of how.
Okay. Performances. Yeah. That I don't know. I work with good actors. I think that's it. That's it. And
anything specific that you keep in mind? कि अच्छा यहाँ पर when we're going a little there, the pitch is going to be that much. So how do you like इसको हम लोग over the top ना करें, because it's a very situational comedy. It might turn into a screwball by the time. It does sometimes, but keeping in mind of the कि थोड़ा restrained रखना है, but still it's hysteric.
No, I just suggest work with good actors. Believe it, and then that's it. And if your casting is right, I think I lay a lot of emphasis on casting and auditions. If you cast right, then the chances are you won't go wrong. I'll tell you more than Ranveer freaking out or other people like that. The real risky thing was, for example, Seema Power's character in Aankhon Dekhi.
Yeah.
That could have gone the other side, because it was the character was so over the top. Sure. But the audition, and we met about 60 people for that role. But when Seema Power came, wow, this is it. All of us knew in the room, this is it. This is Amma, So she, whatever was written and whatever she improvised, she made it her own. It was her, And I'm saying when you audition like that and when you cast like that, then you can't go wrong. Because there is the truth of that person, which you believe. Then there is no more acting. There is no more performance. You believe that. You believe what she's saying and how she's saying it.
So after Mithya, which was, and of course in Mithya, there's a very this very peculiar thing that how you and Rafe sir use rains in Mumbai, as giving it a kind of a very gloomy texture. And it turns a little, it turns bizarre by the end when he dies. It's almost like, very Shakespearean in that nature, if I may say so.
We shot the whole film in July, August. I'll tell you, there was the idea of two things. Water was a very necessary element in that film, because water is in Indian mythology, it is a source of transformation. I don't know if you know this, but maybe I'll tell you another time, of the origin of Mithya. It's in a small story from the Quran about Narad and Vishnu. Anyway, so we wanted to shoot it in the rains. Also because there's a blueness, the whole light is blue. So yeah, we shot the whole film in July, August. And I must say rains were very kind, even when we were shooting outdoors. If we had a 7 to 7 shift, we would start at 7, finish at 7, and as soon as we said pack up, it would start raining. So it was really helped by the gods.
And also after that, like say British Nandi Communications, you made it helped you out in terms of that. But of course, there was a 8 chance that Said sir made, which never released. But Fatso did eventually. And what was where did Fatso come from?
Yeah, the idea. There were two things which excited me about Fatso. Three things. First one was that it's a love story. I wanted to make a pure love story. Second, this idea of heaven was very exciting. That he dies and goes into a whole bureaucratic office, government office, where files are getting mixed up. And I thought that was very exciting idea.
There's a Hindi short story called Bhola Ram Ka Jeev that I got reminded of while watching that film. Have you read
Bolaram
that?
Ka Jeev, no, I'm not. Whose story?
Uh, I can't remember the writer's name, but it was a Hindi story that I read in school where a guy won't leave his file after dying. कि अच्छा नहीं मेरा यही मुझे यही रहना है. And
Yeah.
this kind of
Actually,
thing.
Hindi satire would do that. I mean, something like Harishankar Persai or Sharad Joshi, people
Yeah.
like that would do this. So it's not surprising. And the third thing that really excited me was the last scene in the kitchen when he says, "I love this and I love this and I love this and I love this." So for me, the idea of a man who was dead and is alive now, every little thing about life is beautiful. You know? These were the basic ideas that and I think some part of the film is very good. Some part didn't quite work. I can't understand still why. Why it
Which
didn't
part?
work. The second half of the film, the love story, didn't quite come together. As a film, and I don't know this. This is a thing. It's a funny thing. I don't know why it didn't work. Why Mithya worked, why Aankhon Dekhi worked, and Fatso didn't work in the way that it was imagined. Uh, that will remain a mystery. Uh, so even for us, it didn't work. Forget the audience. The audience comes second in that sense. But as makers, when things
Yeah,
come,
mixed doubles. Mixed doubles was the most, I could say, like the least mad of your ideas, if
really,
I may say.
really, it's a very mad idea. What are you talking about? Couple
No,
swapping is
it's
a
a
mad idea.
no, it's a mad idea, of course, but it's like this guy who's supposed to play a gangster, and of course, you're creating a gangster world in
Yeah,
Mithya, which doesn't exist. It's not the normal underworld. It's not
right.
like a Satya wala underworld. Nahi hai. It's a very
True,
Godfatherish, and you're
true, true.
creating that world there. So, talk about like mixed doubles a little bit. How
Mixed
did you
doubles
come?
was a great journey for me. I'll tell you how it happened. And then there are a couple of people who still think Mixed Doubles is my best film. Sagar Desai, the music director,
Yeah,
he thinks Mixed Doubles is my best film. And there's a friend of mine, a French lady, Anna. She thinks Mixed Doubles is my best film. And I saw it recently, and I find it so funny, some of it. And then
no, it is. It is
Ranveer
totally.
is so good in that film. So what happened after Raghu Romeo? Sunil Doshi had seen the film and was there in Locarno when Raghu Romeo played there. And I didn't know him before that. During Locarno and all that, he became a friend. And then next year he said, Rajat, I have 60 lakh rupees with me. Can you make a film in that much? I said, yeah, I'll make. He said, do you have a script? I said, no, I have this idea. And I gave him mixed levels. He said, okay. And within a month, we wrote it. And within 2 months, we started to shoot it. Because we just jumped into it. In March, he said yes. In end of April, we were shooting it. And by end of May, we had finished shooting it. It was like boom, 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 like that. And the funny thing is, it happened because of the Raghu. So whereas Raghu Romeo came and went and nobody saw it and it flopped and it sent me into depression. But if I had not made Raghu Romeo, there would be no mixed double. And maybe who knows, no Mithya, nothing. So it happened like that. And I think it's a very mad film, Aryan. I see it sometimes and I say, what was I smoking when I made it?
Oh
Because
man.
there's a scene, in the whole second half when they go to the other people's house,
Yeah, yeah.
they're playing out the aeroplane scene. You remember that? It's
Yeah, yeah.
mad. It's mad when
Yeah,
they're fantasizing and then trying to role play. Uh, it is really quite silly and mad and very funny. And Ranveer and Konkana and Koel, all of them are so good. And Vinay in that small cameo, so good in that film.
yeah. And now taking from that, like coming from that, you made Aankhon Dekhi, which was very humorous. There was humor there, but it kind of like it was very subdued. All of a sudden, we see a very profound idea being turned into a film.
Right.
And you said that, and even in
Mithya,
this,
Mithya
yeah,
was also a very profound idea.
it is. Of course, it is. Please don't get me wrong. It's my favorite film of yours. No, of course,
yeah, so profound ideas, I don't know. Ideas are okay. Ideas are okay. What do you do with the ideas is important. Everybody has ideas. So, like for Aankhon Dekhi, I had this idea that a man says, "Okay, I will only believe in my truth," and I had this idea in 2003. You know, but I didn't know what to do with it. So it kept playing in my head from time to time. Some scenes will suggest themselves. I'll have an image. I still don't know what, and it's a great idea, and I knew it. It's something that I want to do, but what do I do with it? Where is the film in it? So then in 2000, like 7 or 8 years after 2010, I thought of the joint family, and I'd always wanted to make a film about a joint family also, but I didn't know what that film is. So somehow that joint family and this idea collided, came together, and boom! In 15 days, I wrote that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also, when we read the screenplay of that film, it's written like almost like a play. It's not interior, exterior. It's just scene one, this happens. Scene two, this happens. And the way you shot it, they're like, when we see films about families, there's one approach. There's a Monsoon Wedding approach where you go handheld and shoot it like a documentary. You shot it like, again, the way you shoot chaos. It's very, the camera is there. And the mind-blowing scene when Bauji in the morning decides ki, okay, ab main sirf jo dekhunga wo manunga. He's going to every family member and the camera tracks him. What was that scene like to shoot?
Great. But again, the idea was, in the script, as written, the idea was that Bauji has this epiphany, he decides. But nobody gives a shit. That was the idea. The daily life continues. अम्मा पूजा कर रही है, लड़की नहा के आई, भाई अखबार पढ़ रहा है, फिर भाई नहाने चला गया, पानी गर्म हो रहा है, चाची जो है वो बर्तन धो रही है. So Bauji has had an epiphany, but who cares? Now this was the idea, and then you have to translate that idea into film. So then we decided to make the shots, and then shots were well done, I must say.
Yeah, they were.
So what is now interesting
the
is
choice of shooting it like that. Like, why did you choose to shoot it like that?
How else? I don't know how else to shoot it. Or what would be a better way to shoot it. This added to the chaos. This added to the dailiness of things, which is almost a casual dailiness. And yet the movement of the camera added to the chaos a little bit.
But you could have taken that path of, like, keeping the camera static and, letting it unfold. But you chose to, track in very...
I know. Who knows why one does what one does? I don't know. This is for somebody else to write about. I don't know why. Really, I don't know why you choose this or that. But it was that day, that morning, we felt like doing this.
And of course, after Aankhon Dekhi, it was RK, if I'm not wrong.
No, Kadak.
Kadak was made before RK.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Kadak, of course, very Hitchcockian, rope. Of course, one can't escape that thing. Like, it's rope almost. But of course, it's... so that's the thing about your writing, You take, in the first 15 minutes, I've noticed this for about all your films. You take the audience, you give them a certain expectation of, like, this is where it's leading. And you just leave it. You're like, maybe, is that why your scripts are unconventional and normal, like, producers who are looking to make pot boilers don't get attracted to that?
I don't know. No, normal producers don't get attracted to my scripts because they don't see the money potential, and also because there's no stars. Simple, Aryan. We make films with stars. But yeah, I don't know how to write. Like, I've not read any book on script writing. I never have. I have learned writing by writing and by, of course, watching films that all of us do. But I've written a lot over the last 25 years. And I've continued to write a lot. I write and then I do, after 6 months, another draft. And then again, next year, I do another draft. And sometimes after 3 drafts, I say, it's not working. I chuck it. I throw it away. There are some scripts which I still like after 10 years. So they remain with me. But I'm constantly writing. So for me, this idea of unfolding is very important. How the audience they should have expectations, like you're saying, that this is how it will go. But it should not really go how they thought. There should be some unfolding, something which they didn't see coming, That's the fun of that is unfolding. When a story, see, all like I said, all stories are done all the same. But how does the story unfold itself? How does it reveal itself to you? That is what is exciting. You know? So I keep looking for ways of unfolding, I suppose.
Also, the screenplays that they feel a little, as you said, of course, now that you talked about drafting and redrafting, they feel subtractive in nature. That okay, like when we do writing exercises, it's like okay, the first thought is this. Now cut it away. Write another thing. Cut it away. Do you do that? Like it almost feels like it's reached after going through a certain point in the screenplay. Okay, this is where it's supposed to go, but it's too obvious that it'll go there. So do you take another turn? Is that
And
how you
I,
write?
I don't know. I don't think so much. Like I said, I've never read a book about it, and I don't have a method. You know? I don't. I'm not aware of that method. I just write. I write what excites me. You know, and then how it will unfold. Sometimes I don't know myself how it will unfold. So like I might have an idea of things, and then I jump. I might have a like a. For example, I'll tell you. Aankhon Dekhi, since you've seen it, the like I said, the idea was with me for 8 years. When I thought of the joint family, then I got Babuji, I got Rishi Chacha. I said, shit, बेटी की शादी हो रही है, नहीं हो रही है, end में होगी. You know, so these things became clear. So I spent 2 or 3 days just scene 1, ये, scene 2, ये, scene 3, अज्जू को पीटने जाते हैं. Scene 4, बाबूजी कहते हैं कि मैं कैसे मान लूं जो मैंने देखा नहीं. Scene 5, he announces, I will believe, you know. Scene 6, he goes to office and has trouble. I don't know what the trouble is. So like that, I make an outline. Okay. And then from day 4, I start writing. Scene 1, now I have to write a good scene. I only have a vague idea. But then I start, as I'm writing the scene, it starts developing into something. Then I start saying, okay, how do I? Now the idea is that that he will leave his job. Boss will fire him or he will leave his job. Because in this new state of seeing things, he can't work in his job. So I'm thinking, now when I come to writing that scene, so then I say, okay, shit, what does he do? What work does he do? Then I say, अरे चलो travel agent. क्या आप एम्स्टर्डम गए? मैं तो गया नहीं. मैं कैसे मान लूँ वहाँ पे लू चल रही है, बर्फ पड़ रही है, you know? So that invention happens when you're writing the scene. You know, sometimes you write a good scene, sometimes you write an ordinary scene. But in 15 days I finished. Then normally I give it to my friends and I read it out to my friends. And normally my friends tell me this is shit. Most of them, you know. This is how it almost always happens. 10 लोगों में से 8 लोग बोलते हैं हाँ ठीक है मगर ये कैसे वो कैसे. Whatever. Then they give their inputs, and then based on their inputs and my own feeling, then I do a second draft. You know, when it gets slightly better, it gets more coherence and so on. And even though Aankhon Dekhi is quite a finished script, but even very often I leave it for the shoot also sometimes. You know.
Yeah. Also, Aankhon Dekhi is shot almost like it's of course Delhi, it's old Delhi, and it feels like recollections from someone's memory. It feels the entire neighborhood feels like that.
Right, it's part of my childhood. It's part of my childhood. I grew up in Chandni Chowk like that.
Yeah, my grandfather's. But apart from the family, the surroundings, the spaces, they were like people when they remember things. अच्छा ये खाली खाली होता था, ये इस वक्त ऐसा होता था. Yeah. So, what was the staging of that for you? Like, how did you go about it?
I don't know. Easy because those lanes are very beautiful.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
The lanes are very beautiful. So after he decides that he'll only believe his truth, he comes out. The scene with the Kalakand was there.
Yeah.
So how do you stage that? I mean, Pandit ji hai, Prasad hai.
But ज़्यादा crowded नहीं है, मतलब
ज़्यादा crowded नहीं. पीछे बबुआ को डाल दो, बबुआ स्कूटर साफ कर रहा है, एक दूसरा पंडित वहाँ बैठा chanting कर रहा है. Now, for example, this assistant cameraman, he said, "Sir, वहाँ पे एक आदमी को बिठा देते हैं, ऐसा कुछ मंत्र बोल रहा है." अरे वाह, very good. So it comes out of that collective.
Why does it feel more like it's from a memory that it's almost like the people that we recount while remembering our past, they are the ones who kind of populate your film, and they are the only ones who keep coming back. कि हम लोग जो surroundings में देख रहे हैं.
आर्यन, वो दिल्ली अभी भी वैसे ही है. वो दिल्ली अभी भी वैसे ही है. Even when I went and shot that film, the people there are so beautiful, I can't tell you. They're so gentle. अरे पुरानी जो तहजीब बोलते हैं ना, वो है.
वो तो
बहुत
रहती
अच्छा, बहुत अच्छा है. लोग वैसे ही हैं, लोग नहीं बदले. अब ठीक है, वो स्मार्ट वॉच पहना हुआ है कोई, या टेलीविजन, या वो सब अलग बातें हैं, मगर लोगों का जहन वैसे ही है, कुछ उसमें बदलाव नहीं है. अभी भी मतलब वहां पे भी कोई हाथ पकड़ के, चलिए आप खाना हमारे साथ खाइए, चलिए हमारे घर चलिए. अरे ये ना, इतना वहाँ मतलब मोहब्बत इतनी है लोगों से ना.
सही बात. ऑल्सो मैं और मेरे एक दोस्त, हम लोग एक दो लाइन्स है आंखों देखी की जो हम लोग एक दूसरे से ऐसा बोलते रहे. इट्स अ वेरी फनी लाइन्स है जो ब्रिजेंद्र कला सेज कि साला अली कपूर की मुछला के झकास बन रहा है. तो दैट वाज हाउ डिड लाइक वो क्या मतलब
Improvise.
लिखा था. हां,
नहीं, that was improvised. That's काला साहब. काला
तो
साहब जैसे काला साहब हो, संजय मिश्रा हो, तो वैसी धमाल है.
और वो भी एक था कि सर कभी कीड़ा बोल रहा है, कभी मेढक बोल रहा है, मेरे ही
That
नाम
was
मदन चोपड़ा.
that was written.
वाज रिटन
मदन चोपड़ा no, मदन
मदन
चोपड़ा. That
मदन
was
चोपड़ा बोल रहा था.
that was Mishra.
And after Aankhon Dekhi, you made Kadak, of course, which is after a very. You said that the producer pulled out last moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you go about then making that film?
No, then we were in a soup, so I put in a lot of my money. I put all my money. It was a tough decision because we were 12 days away from the shoot when this happened, and suddenly there was no money, and everything was done, everything was booked. So there were two options: either to cancel it or somehow just make it. Yeah, so I put in whatever I had.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry.
And then I was begging everyone to. And then some gentleman from Delhi came, Mr. Dinesh Kasana. He gave 50 lakhs. And another friend from Delhi, Nikhil Chaudhary, gave 25 lakhs. So somehow we managed to finish that. Otherwise,
the color palette of that film was something that stood out. So, I thought it was like.
Well, is the production designer.
Yeah, she.
Who's also my wife, and Rafi Mehmood, as you know, and Isha Aluwale is a costume designer. So they work very well in tandem, and they've done Mithya, Fatso, product together. They really work well together. And so the very simple idea, I have a starting point every time. So for this, we knew it's a Diwali party. So you know that people will be dressed in the best sarees, women. So that becomes a starting point. And I told Meenal and Rafi and Isha that, okay, this is like a Karan Johar film gone bad. That was the one line. And then Meenal took it from there, saying, how about if we play color on color? So the walls and the costume and the properties, everything is in the same. Rafi was very resistant to that idea to start. He said, no, aisa kaise hua? Like that. But Isha was excited. So then Meenal and Isha and I kind of convinced Rafi, or Rafi would convince. And then, so you start building from that. Now what? So we said, okay, pink and orange and yellow and everything is in the warm range. Then you start saying, okay, this is Diwali. It starts in the afternoon, late afternoon, goes into evening. And then it's lit for Diwali. And then as the night progresses, as it happens on a Diwali night, जब तक gambling शुरू होता है थोड़ा दिए बुझ जाते हैं, And so we went darker and darker and darker and darker as the night progressed, and the chaos built, and there were more beer bottles and wine bottles around. Till again it ends with the next morning, with the morning light coming into the house. So that it gives you an idea. Also, so from starting from there, and because we know that we're going to build towards a chaos, so we decided to not move the camera at all till he shoots himself. So the first 12 minutes of the film, it's static camera.
True. Yeah.
It's just him talking, him in the kitchen, coming back, but camera does not even pan. When the shot is heard, then the camera tracks into the wall, and then he starts dragging his body, and then the camera moves and moves and moves, and it goes berserk, till in the end when he comes back, the house, and again come back to statics. So this is a kind of a, I'm saying, a general idea that you develop before you start shooting to say, okay, where you could go with this.
So whose thought was it to keep in shades of pink and magenta and
Meenal.
all these colors? Which yeah. So you guys painted the apartment accordingly.
It was, the apartment was made. It was not an apartment.
Oh,
It's all, yeah, it's a set.
wow.
Yeah.
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 So
But we found a kind of a studio which actually looked outside. So you had windows, so you could see trees on this side and that side. That was very important. Otherwise it becomes like really like a set. But and then the production designer built it and did a great job. So the kitchen, everything was set. Everything was made.
So talking about the team, your team, it's almost like when we do like our student projects, it's like okay, we collaborate with the editor, cinematographer, sound designer, and we do that for like 3 years, and we hope to continue that.
Right.
You have been working with the same team. Sagar Desai is there, Rasul Pukati is there, your editor Suresh Pai, Suresh Pai, yeah, Rafi Mahmood sir, uh, Meenal ma'am, and throughout your filmography, you work with the same people. What is it? That like, is it because you guys understand each other's worlds that well, or what is it?
I don't know. I think it's a personal thing. I think I like working with friends. It's that simple. It's I think a sense of loyalty in me. We've been working together with the same friends from theatre also. I mean, it's Chingari friends from 80 to 83. It's 37, 38 years. We're still friends. And sometimes we still work together or collaborate together in some way, you know. So for me, it's very important to keep relationships going. And why would I look for another cameraman? For me, if I look for another cameraman, it's almost like it's disrespect to Rafi. Why would it? Even if we fight, and then sometimes the relationships are difficult. A lot of them are difficult. I don't want to say who, but a lot of them are difficult. But difficult doesn't mean you break away. You accept it. You accept it somehow, and though people tell me कि यार फिर वापस तुम जा रहे हो फिर रोगे तुम यार हाँ रोऊंगा शायद लेकिन his work is very good and I don't know, it's not even the work, it's something else. It's like I said, it's a relationship. You don't want to break away from nothing. It's also a joy of creating together. It's like going on a journey together. And it's very nice to be on a journey for 20 years, 15 years with somebody. You've shared so much. It's beautiful, no? Don't you think?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what we hope as students.
Yeah.
भाई अभी कॉलेज से निकलेंगे, डिप्लोमा बनाएंगे और फर्स्ट फीचर फिल्म उसके बाद तो बस बनानी है यार.
Correct.
साथ में ही करेंगे सारा काम. Also, music. Yeah, that was a part I was like missing out. Music, jazz, and the use of jazz that you like and how did you do that? Like, why jazz? Because mostly people would conventionally go for like very suspenseful music, and all that, even in a funny scenario. But you choose jazz very particularly.
Sometimes. Mithya has some of it. No, I don't know. It happens. Like, Aankhon Dekhi doesn't have jazz.
No, Aankhon Dekhi doesn't. Aankhon Dekhi is another league altogether.
I like jazz. Sagar likes jazz. I don't know. Maybe we do it too much.
No, you don't do it. And it's very foreshadowing in that nature because in Mithya, even though he's running after he's just witnessed the murder, the music.
That's great. That piece is great.
Really, it's almost feels like okay, this is supposed to be, but you do get a sense that कुछ अभी भयंकर होने वाला है. Something is chasing him as he's.
It's a thriller and it's a very nice piece. That one. Sagar is very very good. He's very good. He's a genius. I really really love him. So you take a decision for a film, and like this was Sagar's idea for Kadak. He said, I want to work with the dissonant sound. That's why Kadak music is very difficult on the ear. It's not soothing, But it was his call. And I went with it. I said, okay, if that's how you feel, let's try it. Uh, so in a sense, it adds to the chaos that is already there in the image. And then it becomes difficult because then it's Diwali night. There's already crackers, and there is the sound design of that film was almost nightmarish. It's really difficult sound design, and Rasool and Sagar between them did a great job. Uh, but a lot of people are thrown by that sound design. कि अरे ये क्या इतना शोर क्यों हो रहा है? But yeah, it works for me. It works for me. So you have to go with the instinct of your collaborators. You can't also override them in terms of idea. So if he says, okay, I want to go with dissonant sound. So that's why when the song comes in the end titles, that's so soothing because finally
Yeah.
you hear a melody which has been absent throughout the film.
You made independent films and you made films in almost like no budget, and you kept your team very close, and there are people who would agree to work with you. That's of course because of the rapport issue, but of course there are professional constraints कि अच्छा मैं इतना time दे पाऊंगा यार, तो
Right.
picture तो बना रहा है, मैं इतना दे पाऊंगा, ये कर पाऊँ. How for people like us who are also trying to get indie films made and everything, how do we go about it? What would you advise us?
I don't think I have any advice to give. Just follow your passion. I can tell you one thing. If you are mad about making a film, if you're completely nuts, you'll make it. If you're not, you will not. It's that simple. That's the only thing that works. You have to be nuts. You have to feel that I will die if I can't make this film. Something has to drive you so bad to make a film. And it can't be for any reason other than the film. It can't be for a reason of fame or money, or that can't be the reason to make a film. The reason to make a film is because it is killing you if you don't make it.
Coming to okay, so last question, RK, when is it coming out?
I hope first quarter of next year.
A friend of mine actually, 1,000 rupees. He's a producer in that film.
Oh, really? Please thank him for me.
Yeah, he was in the chat, I think. Yeah.
I'm very, very happy with how that film is turned out. I'm very happy. I think it's really special.
What is it about? We heard the concept about who's writing and who's being written. That's the idea behind.
RK is a filmmaker. Okay, I'm playing that guy, and RK is making a film as it starts. And in the film he's making, he's also acting as Mehboob. Okay. So RK is directing, he's also acting as Mehboob. और shooting हो जाता है खत्म, editing शुरू होती है, and it's not going well. RK is having nightmares कि boss ये film में तो बर्बाद हो गया, कुछ गड़बड़ हो गया. So editor says कि अच्छा एक काम करो RK, don't come here for 10 days, give me a free hand. Let me try and see if the edit will work. So RK he said, okay, you do your job. He's in a restaurant with his wife and his assistant calls. And assistant says, sir, वो गड़बड़ हो गई. तो क्या हो गया? सर वो महबूब नहीं है. महबूब नहीं है मतलब? कहाँ नहीं है महबूब? सर महबूब पिक्चर में नहीं है. तो पागल गंजा भी है क्या? पिक्चर में नहीं मतलब क्या? सर वो नहीं है, हमने देख लिया, है ही नहीं, फ्रेम में नहीं है. So he comes back to the edit room and Mehboob has gone out of the film.
Okay.
Yeah.
This full.
And now Mehboob comes into real life. He started running from the film. He ran and landed here. So now RK has to find Mehboob and then send him back to the film. That's what the film is.
It's very so. You're too preoccupied with Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Purple versus yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. I can't wait to watch that film. And please, I'm requesting you, after the film comes out, can we do another session?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Let it come out first.
Yeah, of course, it will. It will, of course. Now, okay. So, if anyone has any questions, please.
Hi, sir. So my name is Rohit Trivedi, and I'm an actor and a poet. I've been following you all your plays on Prithvi Theatre. They are beautiful, sir.
Thank you.
And so my question is related to acting, sir, because there are like hundreds of acting techniques that we hear about, whether it's Stanislavski or method acting. So when you come from a film school, you're taught few methods, but you're still in dabbling between what is right and how do you really get into the character. So if you could just elaborate a little bit about your process and how you go about. And so the second question is, now when this COVID world, many plays are going on internet formats. Like for example, maybe
Right.
will those plays also go to that medium, or do you feel it'll lose that Midas?
I think by and large it loses the magic of presence. But having said that, As You Like It is actually be shooting it end of October. It's an Aryan play, but it's only for three days or 3 shows that they're going to put it up. That's okay. Also, while shooting it, I don't want to just shoot it like that with 5 cameras, So maybe while shooting it, we can innovate a little bit so that it does not feel too much like a play recording, but becomes something more than that. So maybe one can invest in a close-up a little bit, or a little bit of camera movement. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have to still devise that way of shooting it. I don't know how that will be. But end of October, we're shooting it. It's my first time also to shoot a play and then try and put it out. As for acting and method, I personally don't have any method as an actor. But I do put a lot of emphasis on the script. And I think and the second thing is the look of the person. I feel that if I get the look right in terms of what he wears and how he wears his hair or beard or whatever it is, that helps me a lot to get everything right, to get the walk right. Also, I feel, Rohit, in cinema, this is my opinion, not every actor agrees with that. You eventually play yourself.
Right.
So what you're doing is you're trying to find a part of you which works for this character. But you are, and also audience is interested in watching you. They're not interested in watching some character.
Yeah.
So when you see a Brando, you're watching Brando. You're watching Brando play Godfather or in Last Tango or whatever he's doing. But you're interested in watching Marlon Brando. Even though he transforms, or Robert De Niro becomes this one or that one or that one, he puts on weight, loses weight, whatever. That is the outside manifestation of physicality. But essentially, it's you. So Robert De Niro is Robert De Niro in all his films.
Right.
He will speak in a certain way, because your breath doesn't change. Your breath is you. And that is what makes an actor interesting. कि आप कौन है? हमें तो वही देखना है यार, क्योंकि अगर हम बार-बार आ रहे हैं आपकी पिक्चर देखने, मतलब आप में कुछ है.
Correct.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you, this Aankhon Dekhi movie, which I am a big fan of, was it a reaction to the post-truth era that we live in, the fake news we are surrounded by?
Sir, Aankhon Dekhi was made in 2012, a little before the post-truth era. But I was talking to my son a few days back, actually, a few weeks back, and I was telling him this. He's 17 years old, my son. And I was saying that how bizarre these times we live in, that there is no more truth. And because when this phrase came out, post-truth and all truth, I didn't even understand what it meant, But now I'm beginning to understand that there is no truth, that you can give a spin on anything and make it mean the opposite of what it is. So it's really bizarre times we're living in, and Aankhon Dekhi does become more important now to this world. That if in the world of no truth, the only truth can be your experience. At least your truth can be experienced.
Okay, Preeti, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, sir.
Hi, hi.
So we already discussed in the session that how a filmmaker always has this comparative, like maybe if I'm as good as that person or some other entity in cinema. So did
Right.
you ever experience this thing while staying in India? Did you experience that maybe you need to go to the West or go to some other region in cinema or pursue that thing or
Never,
never? Okay.
never. Because I have also lived all my life here, either in Delhi or Bombay. Forget going abroad, I can't even think of living in another city uh, besides Delhi and Bombay. So that's why all my films are also based in Delhi and Bombay, because this is the life I know, this is the world I know. So if I was to make a film in New York,
Yeah.
I don't know that place. I don't know what people have for breakfast there. I only know what I've seen in movies. So I will be creating a truth that I've seen elsewhere, and it is not mine at all.
Right.
So I've never been tempted to go away and make something.
Right.
Is that very important to you? Like, the films that you make, the truth of that film has to be your truth as well.
It has to, yeah. Otherwise, why would you make anything?
But
Like
can't
I
it be
said,
like a piece of, an aspiration or something that, okay, I want to explore this world that I'm very alien to.
it can be, but even that has to come from you. That need has to come from you. You know. So I might make a film if I feel like it, which is set on Mars, for example, which is obviously a world I don't know. But that idea has to be enough to drive me to go to Mars or New York. For me, it's the same thing.
Hi, sir. I'm a big fan of yours. Aapka
Thank you, sir.
theater, the Kaam Dekhi, and I'm also from Delhi, and I also do theater. So
Okay.
I recently was able to catch RK uh, in the online screening of Fantasia Film Festival.
यार बहुत गड़बड़ हो गया वो, क्योंकि I thought it was an online thing only for people in Brazil. I didn't realize that people in India would be watching it.
So
Okay,
मुझे
okay.
IP address change करके करना पड़ा, and I was just blown away with that film.
भाई तू
Indians are
पायरेसी करके फिल्म मेकर को बोल रहा है तो जिसने बनाया
Indians are so जुगाड़ू man. अच्छा.
आंसर मतलब मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि वो कितनी अंदर की existential angst से आई थी, because I myself work in theater and we have to work under college authorities and it just get frustrating and I was just मतलब मैं इतना फिल्म देख के कभी नहीं हिला था जितना मैं आर के देख के अंदर से
Really? Oh, good. That's great. I'm very happy to hear that.
How personal was it for you, that film?
Oh, every film is personal. I've realized, Spandan, after having made 7 8 films, that the question of identity keeps coming back in these films. It's a recurring theme almost. In Mithya, he becomes that guy, but you see that guy. And I think in RK again, there are two things happening. One is a theme of identity, and the other is a theme of destiny and choice. Because I'm written in a certain way, is that my destiny, or can I change my destiny and then show my identity? So I think that must be at the very heart of the genesis of this idea. I'll tell you something. The first draft of this film was written some 10 years back. In that draft, there is RK, also a filmmaker, and one day he loses his reflection in the mirror. That was it. The reflection has run away. So he does not have a reflection anymore. And then he discovers the reflection has come to where he lives, and slowly the reflection starts taking over his life. So in the end, he is reduced to the reflection. So that was my first draft. So basically it's that idea, but it's found another way of script.
Thank you, sir. It actually inspired me to write my full-fledged first short film ka screenplay also. So thank you for that.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to watching that.
Also, apart from identity, death is a very, is a recurring theme in your films. How do you associate identity to death? Is that philosophic eventually, whoever you are, you'll ultimately, yeah.
Exactly. You said it.
Oh,
Said it.
okay.
Somebody
But-
asked me this. Somebody asked me this about Mithya or Aankhon Dekhi. But why does he die in the end? I said because we all die in the end. That is the only end.
So in Aankhon Dekhi, it does actually die, because someone actually typed out a question: Is it just his truth that he imagines, or he actually flies, or what happens there? He actually dies.
He flies. He flies. He flies. No, he doesn't. He flies.
Okay. Kenneth asks a very interesting question: Is that you mentioned that you don't design a short breakdown? Then how do you go about scheduling, budgeting for a scene in terms of location and everything?
I work backwards from a budget. For example, I'll give you an example of Mixed Devils. We know from the beginning that we had 60 lakhs. Okay. We have to finish the film in 60 lakhs. So now I start going backwards. And that film was shot on 35 mm. So you know that raw stock and lab will cost 15 lakhs. बाकी बचे 45 लाख. So then you say, अभी इसको 20 दिन से ज़्यादा शूट नहीं कर सकते. So let's plan it for 20 days. So it's really, everything is worked backwards. So if you're finishing it in 20 days, then in day one, you have to finish this much. You know, simple. You have to pack this location in 6 days. Khatam. So it's really working backwards from there. I don't have the luxury of, chalo, aaj nahi to kal kar lenge.
Vivekanand Ahuja wanted to know, how do you stay with an idea when you may have moved on in, like, emotionally or spiritually from it? And at what stage of being a storyteller do you feel that you are right now? I mean, it's still with you. It's not, you haven't completely moved on.
From the idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's a very good question. But if you moved away from the right idea and you're still making the film, then that film will lack some truth. That's for sure.
Has that happened with any of your films?
I hope not. I don't think so. I don't know. But I think the idea is essential enough to you. It's important enough to you. I think you will have a core of that query with you. You will not have completely moved away. Because you invest so much time in making a film, from writing to trying to raise finance to actually making of it. If the idea was not important enough, you will not go through the process. You will give up at the script stage sometime. So if it has stayed with you after doing 3 drafts and making and all that, that means there is something in that idea which you can still relate to.
So Satyam asks a question that you dedicated Aankhon Dekhi to your teachers. Was there an actual life inspiration behind Bauji?
No, but I learned from both my teachers this thing, especially from Mani, about experience. Mani used to talk a lot about it. Experience over idea. Okay, ideas are redundant. That was Mani's stand. So I think maybe the first person who introduced me to this was Mani.
So Shruti has a very interesting question. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self now, who was starting out in film school?
I think I was pretty well prepared at 25 for a life of hardship. I had no delusions at that time. I didn't think it would be easy. So yeah, in that sense, I was well prepared, perhaps. What advice would I give? I would say be patient. Don't be in a hurry.
You were in a hurry back then.
I suppose. Because if it takes 10 years to make your first film and not have a release, then another 8 years to make your second film, then, you can lose heart.
Have you explored where does this fascination with the concept of duality come from? That is there in all your films. Where does it come from?
Don't know. Some psychoanalysis will just unravel that. I don't know, but obviously it is deep there somewhere. So yeah, it keeps coming back. Of the double idea, of the double duality, identity. Who am I? That keeps recurring.
Also, the last question, which is one Indian and one foreign filmmaker that you would like to force anybody to explore, that is Shubham. Shubham asks this question. Yeah.
Reducing it to one is very difficult.
Name a few, sir.
For Indian filmmakers, I would say Ritu Gutta, Kumar Shani, Manikal, Gurudutt, for sure. For foreign filmmakers, my list is starting with Chaplin, Fellini, Billy Wilder, Eric Romer, French filmmaker, very close to me, Ozu from Japan, Scorsese, did I say? Coen Brothers, lots, many. Pedro Almodovar. So, Bresson, very different from each other, but great filmmakers.
Okay, this is a question I ask everyone who comes here. Which is your favorite film of yours?
My favorite film of mine? I don't know. Aankhon Dekhi, Mithya, RK.
Okay, these three are like kaisa ki haan, ye तीनों
they're very they come very close to what we hope.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much, Aryan. Thank you. Lovely pleasure talking to you, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much, sir.